All right, everybody. Welcome to the Corporation of Township of Mapleton Council meeting, Thursday, April 30th, 2024. This is the last meeting of the month before we get into some great stuff in May. And we have some good delegations today. But before we get to delegations, if you please rise for O Canada. All right. Thank you all. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, confirmation of minutes. Moved by Councillor Tamlin, second by Councillor Ottens, that the minutes of the Township of Mapleton Council meeting held on April 9th, 2024 be confirmed as circulated in the agenda package. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. We don't have any matters arising from the minutes. No matters under the Planning Act. And delegations we'll move right into. First delegation, they are here. Item 7.1, Minto Mapleton Health Professional Recruitment Committee. The first delegation. Welcome, Shirley, you're speaking, are you? Or is it going to be Alice? Oh, well, take the podium.
Thank you for having us. I am the chair of the local recruitment committee, and I suppose in my daytime job I work at the family health team, Minto Mapleton, but when I'm here in Mapleton, it's Mapleton Minto. I was looking back at the report that we sent to council, Mayor, in December, and I realized there's quite a few changes since we've written that report, I think in a good way. And so today, we're not going to reiterate what's in the report, but I think it'd be nice to have a bit of an update. And Allison's been traveling around almost the world, but not quite, with lots of recruitment activities. So I think we'll have her update in terms of the physician side. Dr. Peterkin is with us here today, and she's going to talk a little bit about her work with the residents and some changes there. And then Jody Caldwell and I will kind of finish. I know we don't have a long time, but finish the presentation with the nurse practitioner perspective. Okay, Allison, over to you.
Sorry, I'll be quick.
Okay.
If you go past the allotted 10 minutes, don't worry about it. I'll cut you
I'll
off at 20.
fast,
I'll
yeah.
cut you off at 20. Okay,
Yeah.
don't worry.
Am I good? I'm good. Okay, hello, I'm Allison Armstrong. I help with physician recruitment for North Wellington Healthcare as well as Groves, as well as look after communication. So like all people in rural hospitals, we do many jobs and wear many hats. So thank you for having us all today. So physician recruitment, we've been making lots of progress, I would say, this year. We're doing our normal traditional things such as, encouraging medical trainees to come and live and work in our communities. But what we're finding with traditional means is many of the trainees are finishing up their training and then they want to go locum. So they want to go to different areas and try out communities, or they want to become hospitalists. So not necessarily sold yet on setting up a family practice in a community, which we're working on. So with that in mind right now, and we are in a healthcare shortage across the country. We're looking at international marketing. So I just last week was in Edmonton at the Society of Rural Physicians of Canada. So this is a group that is solely Canadian medical students, residents, and physicians working across the country. So my job there was really to encourage medical students, if they're looking to choose a place to do their residency, that they come to Ontario, come to a rural area. And it's remarkable how many people don't think of Ontario as rural, is what I learned last week. They think Toronto, but they don't think rural. So I was with Marathon, Atikokan, Wawa. I was with that group of communities, and we were really trying to, educate them about all the opportunities we have in Ontario, and I think we've changed some minds, which is great. We're also looking at US, Australia, and UK marketing. There's a group of about 15 communities in Southern Ontario that are marking the Southern Ontario region as a place to come and work. So we're really looking at trying to get Canadians that are trained overseas to come back home, or potentially UK, Australian physicians looking to come and live and work here. UK right now is very interested in Canada, and especially Ontario. So I'll be doing a presentation to, I think it's 60 UK physicians that are interested in our practice model and what we have to offer, and also going there to recruit. So that's my little update before I'll pass it over. So any questions for me? Good, thank you. All right.
Red means on, right? Okay, there we go. So I'm Chris Peterkin. I'm one of the family physicians working at the Mapleton Health Center. I'm also the Chief of Staff for the North Wellington Healthcare Corporation, Palmerston Hospital, and Louise Marshall. And so I'm here in the capacity of speaking to our residency program and the exciting things that are coming down the line. And so we've been quite intentional in our residency program in the last year, after having about a 4 to 6 month drought of not having any residents through, which was unusual for us. But we were able to kind of connect with the people who are in charge of this program and find out that as we're learning, the landscape is changing, and a lot of our family medicine residents are looking for a different type of flavor when they're looking for their placements. Oftentimes, they're looking for flexibility. They're looking for opportunities where they're able to have guaranteed housing and a supportive environment, of course. And what we're realizing is that Palmerston and Minto Mapleton were just not as much on the map as new candidates were coming through. So as I said, we've been very intentional in terms of our marketing campaign in sharing what exactly we have to offer in this area. So one of our newer brochures that we put together touts this idea of a choose your own adventure. And that seems to have connected and resonated with quite a few folks. And I'm happy to say that just by sharing all the different opportunities that we have locally, and the fact that when the residents come, they will have the option of what they want to focus in on, as opposed to when you come here, you're going to do obstetrics, ER, family medicine, long-term care. I think, in a way, some of this was making people a little bit shy to come out to our end. And so by making it a little bit more flexible, we've been successful in now having a almost full roster of residents that are going to be coming up in the next year. And so there are potentially 6 blocks to be filled, and we have filled 4 out of the 6 so far. So that's really good news from our end. The other thing I will talk about just briefly is how we are working towards becoming a teaching site at Palmerston. So I don't know if folks are familiar, but our residency program currently for the North is mainly geared at Louise Marshall Hospital. They've been doing this for several years now. Palmerston has never really been considered a longitudinal site, which just means when a resident comes for their family medicine training, when they come with me, it's just for 2 months at a time. But in a longitudinal setting, their home base would actually be our area. And then that would be the launch pad for the 2 years that they're doing their family medicine training to go to their specialty sites. So they would always come back to a family medicine clinic here for the whole 2 years of their training, which is pretty significant because if you think about it, if they enjoy their time with us, if they create those ties, then when they're done their training, a lot of them will stay. And so that's what we're working towards right now. We're hopefully going to be on the roster for 2025, 2026. You might be asking, what is this going to take? What is this going to involve? Well, money, always money. But essentially, the government needs to be able to support having both the supervisors as well as these trainees stationed here for that, that time period. So lots and lots of networking is happening, a lot of stuff behind the scenes, just trying to position ourselves in such a way that we will be considered top of the list for us to become a teaching site in the next couple of years. So that's the exciting news there. I don't want to take up any more time, but if folks have any questions, those are probably the main things that I wanted to kind of touch on today. Once again, very excited about all the potential and however the municipalities can help us out, whether it be partnering with local businesses, so when these folks come through, we can show them what we have to offer, whether it be schooling, housing, you know, things like that. That would be wonderful.
So I'm going to cover the nurse practitioner side of things. About a year ago, I was busy preparing an application for the government that looked at expansion of nurse practitioner funding and services in Minto and Mapleton. And like the many thousands of applications or applicants that submitted in the spring, I didn't think much more about it. Even when I wrote the letter in December, we alluded that, well, we put in for this application, but who knows when this is going to happen. And really quite excited to announce that we actually received, we were the only applicant in Waterloo Wellington to receive funding to expand our family health team by a couple of nurse practitioners. Particularly building on our Clifford Clinic, where we already have one full-time nurse practitioner. We now have a second nurse practitioner who has just started, Becky Bell, that is going to be starting to see new patients starting next week. And then we'll also be expanding our Harriston location to add a nurse practitioner, a registered practical nurse, and a receptionist. And the whole idea around this is to help the many people in our area that don't have access to primary care. And I particularly look at the growth of our communities, especially those people that perhaps have a provider far away and they're coming to our merge department to receive their primary care services. The idea is to be able to attach a nurse practitioner to these patients so that they can receive access to care in their own communities. So it's pretty exciting. The work's just beginning, and I feel like I need to have at least 2 more sets of hands and more oomph behind me to get things up and rolling, because the government's very interested in rolling this out quickly and looking at the results of this funding. So it's exciting, and more to come as we particularly get Harriston up and running. And Jody, as a nurse practitioner, I thought it would be really nice for her to join us today just to share a little bit about the work that we're doing with our nurse practitioner students, as well as NPs across the province.
My name is Jody Caldwell. I am a nurse practitioner here at the Minto Mapleton Family Health Team. I am also actually the Director of Primary Care for the Nurse Practitioner Association of Ontario. So I'm up to date on what's going on across the province, as Shirley said. So for nurse practitioners, it's actually a really exciting time in healthcare, both provincially and nationally, because we're becoming recognized as a unique option for filling gaps in care as autonomous practitioners. I'm not sure if you're aware, but last week in Alberta, they increased flexible funding models for nurse practitioners to be able to bill the government directly, which has not happened yet here in Ontario, but that is also the model in British Columbia. So I think it's really notable at the federal level that, you know, these are starting to become some of the expectations. Our team getting expansion funding allotted specifically for nurse practitioners is actually really forward thinking from our government. And I think that the fact that Minto Mapleton has really worked hard to be a leader in maximizing the utilization of nurse practitioners locally is unique to our area, unique to our county. Not all teams are using their nurse practitioners to their full scope, so I think that we're really lucky rurally to be maximizing that. You know, I have students regularly, almost every semester, and we rotate through, and the thing I hear from them time and time again is how supportive our family health team is for nurse practitioners from a collaboration standpoint. And sadly, it is a bit of a unique circumstance that they don't get that at every placement. So I think that speaks volumes to our team, to our local healthcare practitioners, the physician partners, our allied health practitioners, as well as making them feel really welcome. So at the end of the student placements, we've been doing a survey, and we ask, would you consider working here if we had funding? And so I just wanted to share the recent response from my most recent student. So she said, if there was funding, I absolutely would consider joining the team at Minto Mapleton Family Health Team. I loved my placement with Jody and really enjoyed my days spent with other NPs, Patrice and Sam. I also had an amazing experience with other interprofessional team members. I recognize how NPs were valued within the team, and this is a very unique compared to the primary care settings in which I've had other placements. I've reached out to the school to request my placement be here again, and I truly have had such a good experience, and I hope I get to work here in the future. So that, I think, speaks volumes, and that student is back with me now, and I think it's really notable that the reason we were able to roll out this expansion funding is because we hired 2 of our students. So that's a really big factor in our recruitment of nurse practitioners and also in our retention, because I think that having a team that values, having a community that values nurse practitioners is making people want to work here, and that's not the case everywhere. So I think it's just really exciting to be part of a team that is setting precedent in our OHT, in our county, and at the provincial level. And you guys should be really excited about what this means for our community. So it's really a good news story.
All right. Any questions from council? Got some really good news stories that have been told to us. We've got some great things coming forward. I really like the idea of having 4 of 6 spots already filled that we haven't had filled for our doctor recruitment. Really like the idea of new nurse practitioners expanding. Such good news for all the residents of both of our communities. Any questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor.
Just as a curiosity question, it says that the funding was requested for 2 nurse practitioners. So it just occurred to me, is there a specific number of doctors that we request funding for? Or is it unlimited, just based on the fact there aren't that many?
Oh, sorry, you have to take the podium. YouTube in this.
For both, it would be for the residency program and for permanent placement.
Yeah, so for the residency program, we could have residents year-round. There is funding for that year-round for the 2 block rurals. For the longitudinal placement, where it's like 1 resident or 2 residents who actually stay with our community for their entire training, that is different funding that comes from a separate pot. And because there are a lot of different communities who are all vying for the same idea, because they understand, you know, the benefit of having these trainees with them for that long period of time, like the bucket is not bottomless, basically. And so we have to do the networking, kind of prove the point of us being a viable candidate. I didn't mention this, but part of that includes getting medical students through. So one way that we can really help with our community efforts is even just kind of sharing this idea of we are an open community, like we're open to learners. Because I think that that's something that can sometimes be challenging when you have a trainee coming to see you in the office for your clinic visit, for example. if we can kind of normalize this a little bit more so that folks are comfortable with seeing medical students and seeing residents come through, knowing that these are going to be the future doctors who are going to be taking care of, our communities, then I think that would be helpful. But short answer in terms of a dollar sign number, I'm honestly not sure. I just know that it's not cheap.
Go ahead, Jody.
I just want to add, I think a big thing that you're talking about as well is just the funding structure that's different for nurse practitioners versus physicians. So this expansion funding was to the family health team. Nurse practitioners don't bill the ministry the way physicians bill the ministry, so that is a separate allotment. And so this expansion funding for the family health team can be used from a salary basis. So when I mentioned the piece about Alberta, recently allowing nurse practitioners to bill the ministry and open their own practices or get new positions in flexible funding models, that is different than how it is here right now. So the pocket of funds for recruitment and the expansion funding for nurse practitioners is not competing whatsoever. It's two separate allotments. So I don't know if that makes more sense. Like we don't bill the ministry under OHIP codes the way the physicians do. And so this is covering a nurse practitioner's salary to be able to access patient care. So does that make sense?
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was about the, Dr. Peterkin, you were talking about Palmerston contemplating being a teaching site. I think Listowel is pursuing some sort of relationship or partnership with a specific institution as well. Is that the same, is that kind of what you're talking about? And what, are you able to talk about which school you're looking at?
Oops. There we go. So we have affiliations with McMaster University. I know that Listowel is looking at Western, and even in our networking discussions, that was something that was brought up, whether or not Palmerston would consider looking at Western as a partner as well. And that for sure is something that we can do. I'm looking to Allison here because she is the guru when it comes to these relationships. I think the reason that we were trying to pursue the McMaster route and the ROMP route, Rural Ontario Medical Program, is because we have pre-existing relationships with them, and because Mount Forest, having their long-standing success with that relationship, we were entertaining a creative solution of even piggybacking on top of what Mount Forest already has in existence. So because they already have the funding, the program, et cetera, we were trying to see if whether or not we can kind of eke in there and get a resident of our own, but under the umbrella of basically a northern catchment, so like a North Wellington catchment. So that's why we were leaning towards that McMaster route. But yeah, same idea, yeah.
Thank you. Anything further? All right, thank you very much for your delegation. Well, go ahead, Shirley.
Mayor Davidson, you always ask me every year, do we have enough space in our medical center? So, right, and you might wonder, well, yes, there are needs in Minto in terms of nurse practitioners, but we also have needs in Mapleton, and we have many new residents coming to our area. One of the first questions they say, well, do you have a doctor or a nurse, or what have you got here? And so I just label this as something that we will need to address as our communities grow. Currently, there is no capacity in Mapleton at our center to bring on new patients or, in essence, new providers. And so we look forward to working with you on this solution. We've had to create or expand a site in Harriston to accommodate a nurse practitioner, and we built on an existing site in Clifford. But these are things that the government do look at when they're awarding funds and being able to get ready quickly and put things in place. So something I label again that I know we're going to have more conversations on.
Thank you. See, I didn't have to ask a question. You gave it the answer anyway. I do have a movement here, a resolution here by Councillor Tamlin, second by Councillor Ottens, that the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information the delegation of Mapleton Minto Family Health Professional Recruitment Committee, Shirley Borges, Allison Armstrong, Dr. Peterkin, and Jody Codwell regarding the recruitment update, and that Township of Mapleton continue to provide $10,000 annually of financial support in 2024 towards health professional recruitment and retention efforts. Questions, comments on that? All in favor? Thank you, that's carried. Now I'll ask you ladies to come forward because I'm going to do the check presentation right now. Well, now that they've taken all the money, John, there's nothing left. All right. Moving on, we have the Cadet Club. We have Gina and Erica. Please take the podium. Have outer. Okay, so Erica's giving it up.
Erica is here, yes. I'm 100% for moral support. Thank you for having us here today. It has been a little while since the Connect Club was here to partner with the Township of Mapleton on a recreation facility in the township. As you will recall, the last time we partnered, we ended up with a new splash pad at the ABC Park. We are looking to partner on a much smaller scale this time, but to replace the park, the playground, sorry, the structure that is at the B Diamonds at the Drayton Park. So what was suggested to us is that we request the remaining 50-50 funding that would be available for 2024 as well as money for 2025 so that we could add that to our own funding and hopefully potential grants and get a playground structure installed again as soon as possible. So the proposal was included in your package, so I'm going to assume that you have all read it or at least taken the important bits out of it. Shown on the screen currently is the of the structures that were shown to us as ideas. This was the one that we selected. It is option 1, which you'll notice in 2023 cost approximately $20,675. It is a much better option than option 2, which for $18,000 is a slide and one more photo. Down one more, please. Oh, 2 more, I lied. That costs $18,000. So there's not really much comparison for what you get in terms of why we would go with the bigger structure. Yeah, that's what I have to say about playgrounds right now.
Thank you, Gina. Questions from council members on this? My question goes to the Public Works Director. The current funding still available?
To you, Mayor Davison and Council, there's $4,950 left in the 50/50 funding for this year. It's on your sheet I just handed out there as part of that. So that's the remaining money that was not claimed from earlier this year, recommendations from the Parks and Rec Committee. So, and I always enjoy these projects. They're well worthwhile.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Questions from council then to the delegation? Councilor Martin?
This one's going back to the Director of Public Works, too. When was this particular structure scheduled to be replaced? I had trouble really finding it on the capital plan, so.
Through you, Mayor Davison, I just had conversation with some staff not too long ago, and it's in pretty rough shape. I don't know the exact date, but I think they were actually talking about removing it this year because it's in that poor condition. So, yeah, I think it was this year that the park staff had recommended it through inspections. So the quicker we can move this along, the better. So, but I can, if you'd like, I can bring a council report back with some of that stuff. I just don't know offhand, sorry. But it is in need of immediate replacement in a vital area.
Thank you, Jamie. Further questions to the delegation? Go ahead.
This one's for Gina. First of all, I love the idea. Your club's always been super supportive of any sort of recreational type structures and amenities locally. So I think you've picked a great structure to replace. I know my boys kind of grew up on that structure in their early years with soccer and baseball and stuff, and it still gets a fair amount of hang time, I think, despite its shape. So I do think it's a structure that gets good use, even though there's other structures around, like in that vicinity. It just, for whatever, with the B Diamond being upgraded and, you know, more traffic on that side of the park, I think it's a wonderful idea. So thank you for the idea, for the legwork on it.
All right. Anything further? I do have a resolution here. Township of Mapleton Council received for information the delegation of Drayton Cadets regarding replacing the dilapidated playground structure by the B Diamond in Drayton. Do I have a motion to amend? Go ahead, Councilor Reid.
Through you, Mayor, I'd like to amend that to award the remaining 2024 funding as well as the 2025 application for this instead.
Thank you. So the motion is to provide the Connect Club with the remaining 50/50 funding in the 2024 budget and to provide $5,000 under the 2025 budget. Seconder for that motion? Councillor Ottens. So we'll vote on the motion, the amended motion, or the amendment to the motion first. I just said to you what the motion, the amended motion is. Any questions on the amended motion? Councillor Martin?
Just a question about the swing set part of it, you know, the 20,000 for the structure itself. There's also a swing set contemplated at the end of the proposal. Is that something the township would look after as far as the overall structure replacement, or am I reading that wrong? Because that would be roughly another $12,000, correct?
Was the swing set, was the separate, Gina, or was that the third option? Or was that an option to add into the first option?
Okay, so the swing set is in addition to the larger play structure. Earthscapes, where this quote came from, or Playscapes, whatever their playground version or department is familiar with the area and said that it would be no problem to add in the new structure and the swing set as well. The footprint would grow a little bit, but it also, I don't think the ground cover is included in this. Do you remember? So I'd have to look back at that to see whether the ground cover is included as well, but no, the swing set is an additional $12,000, so the playground that we are looking at installing, including the swings, would be about $30,000. So,
Thank you. And so this amended motion, or this amendment to the motion is the remaining money for 2024 and then the full $5,000 for 2025. So I'll call the question on the amendment only, and then we'll do the entire motion. So those in favor of the amendment? That's carried. And then we'll have the entire motion was that the Township Mapleton Council receive for information the delegation regarding replacing the playground structure by the B Diamond in Drayton and award the remaining $4,950 in 2024 and financing as well the $5,000 for 2025 from the 2025 budget. Any questions on that? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Before you leave. Is there a big check? No. You were hoping, no big check, no big check. I just mentioned that you can also work with Amy to look for any other funding opportunities out there, all right? So don't think that this is just something you have to do, but I also want an update on your party you had on the weekend.
Am I allowed to ask Councilor Reid how it was? It was great. We had,
Hit the button, please. Yeah.
we had about 150 women from the community come out, and we had to kick them out just before 1 a.m. when it was time to go home. But the funds from that are already earmarked for this project. So the club is excited to replace a structure that the original Connect Club of Drayton actually installed. So it's kind of our baby project now. The splash pad was our first big foray, but now something that our predecessors did, we get to replace. That sounds really bad, but we get to, it was going to go away anyway, so now we get to replace it and leave our mark on the community again. So
Perfect. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
delegation. And
thank you.
we've given you the 50/50 funding, so go celebrate that. All right. Thank you. And next up, Mr. John Green, committee to celebrate the Village of Drayton's 150th anniversary. John, welcome. Back to the chambers.
Back to the chambers. I'm kind of a stranger on this side of the mic, but certainly, Mr. Mayor, members of council, those in and about the lodge, as well as the lodge, the building and the staff, you have a script of what we have prepared. We're celebrating 150 years of the incorporation of the Village of Drayton, which we think is pretty important in the part of the history of this part. We've already had similar celebrations in our neighbors of the former Peel and former Maryborough Township, and there's some things we would like to do. First thing that we're doing, as you might be aware, is we're collecting information from churches and schools and individuals, and particularly businesses, to write a history of the last 25 years. We have an active history for the first 125 years in 3 different volumes, and we would like to complete the 150 years with the latest 25. There's a number of events that I've mentioned there. Certainly, some of them are old hat to us, and some of them are there. Of course, we have parades, and we have a number of banquets that we want to have. We always had an annual beef barbecue here for years. We don't have the experts on that we used to, but we know how to find those people. And as I mentioned, we'd like to have a chicken barbecue to support the chicken farmers in and about the area. I tried to get a hold of the CAO and the mayor last week early, and no, they're good roads, Mr. Green. They're good roads, Mr. Green. So I didn't have all the upfront information I wanted to do, but I would like to request the opportunity to work with Mr. Barron and thank Mr. Wheeler for allowing us on the agenda in your absence. I think I would like to suggest that, and I want to state this very unequivocally, I'm not asking for a loan, I'm asking for a grant, although that may change. I don't want to tell you that I want a loan of X number of dollars and not able to pay it back if something doesn't work out. So I'm asking for a grant rather than a loan. And I could see that we could get along quite well with possibly $5,000. I don't know what your granting structure is in the township anymore. And if you had to split it, we could live with half this year and half next year because it'd be budgeted over 2 years that way. That would be up to you and your decision. And there's another project I'm working on, and I will discuss that with Mr. Barron and Mr. Wheeler in the comforts of their office someday. If there are any questions, I'd answer them to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Questions about this project?
Oh, I might add that we do have a volunteer at your table. Mrs. Ottens has volunteered to be part of our committee, and we welcome her.
Thank you. Councillor Tamlin.
Through you, Mayor. Thanks, John. So I think part of my question was already answered with Marlene on the committee. I just wondered, what is the committee made up of? Like, what organizations are part of that, or the decision-making and making this happen?
So you have to hit the button again. Sorry, John. You have to hit the button again.
The committee is made up mainly of people who have been active in the community for a number of years, and we've tried to blend another part of the citizenry into that, in that we have people that were 3 for 4 more members of past members of council. We have some people who've been active in service clubs, and they will be contacted to be represented. And we're also trying to introduce some of the middle-aged people in the community to carry on this, so that in 175 years we might be able to have the similar celebration. So we're trying to introduce the younger ones. One of the things that we're going to do is try and have local music involved, and the name that I have to contact is the New Nelson Band, so you'll be hearing from me. But if there's any other questions, I'll answer them to the best of my ability.
Look at him buttering you up. I tell you. Any other questions? Comments? Mr. Morrison, the funding, if the council were to give this funding, it would come out of the discretionary council fund, I understand, and we just gave $10,000 away to the hospital recruitment, and I believe, Mr. Clerk, some of the funding goes to bursaries for sports in that 16,000. Do we have an idea how much is left in that fund, Mr. Morrison?
Depending on how much you continue to want to or expect to give out in bursaries, you might have $4,000 maybe left over.
Thank you. All right, so there is, and that fund, Mr. Morrison, we don't always use it up, and it would go into a reserve at some point, or just go back into the kitty?
The way it works is that set aside $16,000 this year for council's discretion to provide either a grant or a donation to any deserving cause that it sees. So if it underspends, it becomes a surplus, and if you overspend, it becomes a deficit pressure. There's no rules about it. It's whatever council decides, wishes to spend.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. So for council, I just have a recommendation that I have currently here. Moved by Councillor Tamlin, second by Councillor Ottens, that Township of Mapleton Council will receive for information a delegation of John Green representing the committee to celebrate the Village of Drayton's 150th anniversary. Any motion to amend? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Mr. Green already alluded to it, that, perhaps if it works to fund it this year and next year, that could resolve our, if we're looking to get to that $5,000 number, if we do $2,500 now and then preemptively earmark a portion of our discretionary spending in 2025 for this as well. And that would be, so I would amend the motion to suggest, however Larry writes that. Yeah.
All right, so we do have a amend to the motion that in 2024, $2,500 be provided to the celebrate the Village of Drayton's 150th anniversary, and in 2025, a further $2,500 be provided to the committee. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Reid, thank you. Any questions on the amendment? So I'll call a question on the amendment only. All in favor of the amendment? That's carried. And then putting all of it together, receive for information and the funds. Any questions on the entire process? All in favor? That's carried. Mr. Green, 2,500 this year and 2,500 next year.
Thank you very much, members of council. This is very important for us that have made this our home for a long time, and we want to celebrate it. As you may be aware, when I got involved in 1983, the population here was 740, and now it's about 2,700, so we've almost quadrupled our size. And I thank Mr. Martin for the amendment. That leaves me open to ask for another 2,500 next year to top up the 5,000.
Well, that amendment already gave you that for next year too, so you don't need to come back. We're good to go. All right. That finishes up our delegations. We're now moving on to item number 9, the Finance Department report, the Treasurer's report on the Development Charge Reserve. Mr. Morrison.
Through you, Your Worship, this is a standard report that a treasurer must make public and provide to the public each year about how development charges are being spent. The way you should read this report is at the beginning of the year, we had spent all of our previous balances. We've then got DC revenues from contributions from the developers, some interest expenses, interest that we've earned in certain DC accounts, and then we transferred on eligible projects spent another $335,000. Our DC background study, though, suggests that we could spend another $5.8 million, and that would require us to consider where we would get the additional funding from. It is possible that you could go out to market and get a debenture and have the developers pay for the debentures to that money, should you so wish. Or it's possible that the taxpayers could lend the money to the developers and get repaid at interest.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Questions on this? To the Finance Director. Seeing no questions. Resolution is moved by Councillor Otten, seconded by Councillor Tamlin, that Township of Mapleton Council receive for information Finance Report FIN 2024-09 dated April 30th, 2024 regarding the 2023 Treasurer's Statement Development Charges Reserve Fund. I'll ask one more time. Any questions or comments? All in favor? It's carried. Mr. Morrison, next report, RBC Banking Services.
Just seemed like yesterday that we came to council and asked them to renew the last 5 years for the banking agreement. This is a new renewal period for another 5 years with RBC. The reason it comes to councils is that we are bypassing our procurement policy because we will not be tendering this on the market. It would be far too costly for the municipality to change bankers at this point. The fee structure is unchanged, and we believe that it would be wise and financially prudent just to enable the mayor and clerk to sign the agreements for the next 5 years.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Resolution moved by Councillor Otten, seconded by Councillor Tamlin, that Township of Mapleton Council receive for information Finance Report FIN 2024-10 regarding RBC Banking Services, and 1, authorize staff to enter into a 5-year service agreement with RBC, and 2, consent to the fee schedule proposed for the term of the agreement. Questions on this report? Seeing no questions, all in favor? That's carried. Mr. Morrison, you got off easy. Next up is Public Works. Maybe not so easy for Mr. Morgan. Mr. Morgan, the Armadillo Tracker.
Yep, thank you, Mayor Davison and Council. This tracker, as part of our roads needs study and tracking our traffic counts over the years. Instead of hiring somebody in to do the road with the rubber hose across the road, this is an option of tracking all our traffic movements, speeds, and everything. So it's kind of all encompassed in one. And it, you know, you can do it right off an app on your phone. We can set this up, leave it there for 7 days, and we can actually do traffic counts all year round. You don't have to do them at certain times of year because there is a formula, the AADTs, which is the average annual. So you can do the math in a spreadsheet and get those numbers. So every 5 years, we would be able to provide our engineering firm with an updated spreadsheet for traffic counts. That way, we can also keep an eye on the classifications of our road and making sure, you know, if a road is sneaking from a class 4 up to a class 3 for travel, that we can make sure we track that. So this was just an option. The only downfall of this is they're not GPS for theft. And that was my only hesitation in purchasing this unit and using it 12 months of the year. So it was more of an information to council and just to get some council's thoughts on it, and whether they would like to see me move forward with something like this, if I can, you know, kind of keep the theft thing under control, because it does just sit on a hydro pole. In talking to the company who sells these, and they said they haven't had very many reports of them being stolen. So, and you could always work on, they're a closed tight container, so you could put one of those Apple chips, tracking chips in it too, which is an option we could do with this, because they're lockable cases. And as soon as it starts to move, I would get a ding on the phone, right? So that's another option. So I think it's a neat thing. A lot of places are moving to this rather than the little rubber lines across the road. And we could use this 12 months of the year and not hire out a consulting firm to come in at large dollars, you know, for one time a year. So I think it would be a good purchase, but just putting it out there to council, just an FYI, and see what their thoughts were.
Thank you, Jamie. Questions from members of council then on the Armadillo? Councillor Ottens?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So how high on the poles do they go? Like, they're not easily grabbable. It would be an effort to grab.
Through you, Mayor Davison, just depends on the ditch and the pole height location in the ditch and the height of the road. So we'll have to do a sight line. There'll be a certain, like probably 1.3 meters above road, so we'd have to just measure it in. So some will be difficult, depending if the pole's in the bottom of the ditch, but if it's on the back of the ditch bank, it could be a little more accessible, so.
Just to help answer that, so the county and the OPP use Black Cats, which are a very similar product to this one. We haven't had any stolen at this point in time, but they're usually 6 to 8 feet off the ground, not much more than that, so they are reachable. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I can't recall whether the Black Cats have that theft detection in them. Do you know offhand if they have that?
To you, Mayor Davison, I don't know that offhand, but I have looked at them in the past when I was in a previous employment, and it did not at that time, because I looked at the Black Cat, and that was always a concern of mine, was theft, right? Mm-hmm. But with these Apple things now, you can track your suitcase. It's become a little more easier. But at that time, it's probably about 5 years ago, I don't think they did.
And Jamie, are all these units white, like the one you're showing, or they come in different colors? Like, do they come in a black color, or are they all white?
As far as I know, they all come in the white color. They're all the same colored case.
Okay. Other questions from council? The resolution is from Councillor Reid, seconded by Councillor Martin. The Township of Mapleton Council received traffic data collection report PW 2024-08 dated April 30th, 2024 for information. Does council want to make an amendment to this? Does council want information on the Black Cat to look at that option as well? I think they're a great use. I know the county gets a lot of use out of it. The OPP get a lot of use out of it. I think it's a great idea for the township to get involved and start using these instead of the rubber tubing. Just a matter of the units. Jamie has brought this one forward for discussion. And do we actually want to go this direction? So let's discuss that first. Do we think this is the right direction? Councillor Tamlin?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yeah, I think it'd be very prudent to do this. Notice myself to see increase in traffic, commuting traffic on different roads. It'd be great to monitor that dynamic, what's happening as well. And also if it's going to save some money as far as contracting these services out and manage that ourselves, then I think it's a very good suggestion to move forward.
Other questions or comments? Councillor Martin?
I'll second that.
So, well, it wasn't a motion yet, but Councillor Tamlin, are you looking for more information on this piece, whether we can do the security, as Jamie's talking about? Do you need more information at all, or do you want to go with the suggestion by the Public Works Director?
Okay, yeah, through you. I'm not sure. I mean, I think it'd be prudent to look at the other product as well, look at prices. I mean, I'm presuming it'd probably be around the same, but I think that would be a good move, and then to move forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other comments from council? So Councillor Tamlin suggested that Mr. Morgan come back with further information on other similar products and their costs. I think that's what you're suggesting, right? Okay. Councillor Ottens? Nothing? Councillor Martin?
I mean, we could ask for more information, but I think that just delays things even more, right? We're in high traffic time of year, and if we're looking at, a device that's acquiring data, I think now's the time. So I'm comfortable with this particular product if the director feels it's appropriate for us.
Jamie, the timing when you do the tubing on the road, when does that usually take place?
Mayor Davison, it's in the summer months, right? So any time in the summer, spring to fall, just try not to have snow on the road, and there's no winter maintenance being done. So generally, anytime when you're done plowing to when you start plowing again. But if council wishes, and I'm okay, staff can do a little bit of research on this, but I would bring it back to council and pick the better unit if that's what you wish. Like and that's an option too, if you wish. Like I don't mind doing some research because, yeah, we can definitely pick the right option if council feels comfortable with staff's decision.
I think council's direction is going this way on the post and getting rid of the tubes. I think that's the direction of council right now. I'd be okay with coming back with information on other options and what their costs are. And whether we need one or more, because you're providing this with information on one unit, and to see if we need more than one unit, and you can come back with council with that information as well. Would that be fair from council to have a further? Councillor Ottens?
I did wonder if one was enough, because typically with the tubing, you see them in multiple locations at any given time. But I do trust our Public Works Director to make these.
You clicked off your volume.
I did. Does the Black Cat count traffic too, or is it just a speed?
Does it all. The same
Does
with
the
this
same
unit.
as this.
I think it's pretty well a similar product, Jamie. It's, from what I understand from the Black Cat, the OPP use it for counting speeds, but the county uses it for counting traffic and doing speeds. But Jamie, you know any more?
Yeah, Mayor Davison, yeah, they're very similar units. Yeah, this company sold the Black Cats at one point too. So, yep, they're very, very similar units that do basically the same job.
And I know, Councillor Reid, in your area, when a Black Cat went on a post, people thought it was a photo radar and started making comments about that. So even whether it's black or white, it's still visible no matter what. Any comments, Councillor Reid?
I was just going to say that my comfort with the decision that Mr. Morgan has made here, I'd be comfortable with him going ahead with it, but I also would like to know if we think we do need more than one, just because of use, and if it's a cost savings in the long run to be needing to, then I'd like to know that now, so we could just go ahead and do it.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, if you can come back with a further report then that would indicate exactly how many you need and look at the options out there as well. And we'll then provide the funding, because this is the direction council's willing to go. So the Township of Mapleton Council received from Information Public Works Report dated April 30th, 2024. No, wrong one. Council received Traffic Data Collection Report for information. All in favor? That's carried. Moving on to the next one, Mr. Morgan, on the Capital Quarterly Update number 1, which you have some great news to share with us on this update.
Through you, Mayor Davison, yeah, I'm pretty sure council likes these spreadsheets. They're full of pretty valuable information to keep council and the ratepayers of Mapleton up to speed on where we are with all our projects. And this year, we're finding that the tender prices have really improved this year, and we're getting a lot more people actually tendering on our projects. PB 029 come in at a remarkable price, and we actually had 12 companies bid on that structure. So there's been some real interest in Mapleton, actually, in some of these tenders. We're getting a lot of responses, and highlighting always is the paving tender. We got asphalt this year at probably $83 a ton, because we brought all our paving projects into one area. Instead of doing a road here and a road there and a road here, we're doing 4 full blocks of the 12th line. And that really drops the price for mobilization. So $83 a ton for asphalt is really unheard of in the last 6 years, I'd say 5-6 years. So then COVID always plays a part. So you can see there that, but the number is a little bit deceiving, because we have a little bit of our own staff time in that money. But I would probably guess we're going to be close to $1 million under budget when we're done with the paving this year. So really good numbers that come in. All of our equipment's come in right on tender price. I think the only one that went over is we were about $200 over on our lift pump. Our John Brooks supplied us our pumps for Moorfield, our E1 pumps, and it's $200 over. But if there's any questions, a lot of this stuff is ongoing. A lot of the smaller ones you'll see in the roads, those are basically culvert replacements that we're going to be doing this year for next year's paving, and just getting ready from year to year, because we always do the culvert replacements a year before with our own staff, with the excavator we bought, and some of them require hiring in a bigger one, but generally we can do it ourselves, and that's just preparing for next year's project. So I'm not sure if there's any questions. I still want to bring back a wastewater update. I just didn't have time to bring that full report with all the numbers, where we are with our wastewater expansion. It's going to be a standalone, and I'll bring that shortly.
Thank you, Jamie. The resolution here is moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Reid, that Township of Mapleton Council receive for information Public Works Report PW 2024-05 dated April 30th, 2024, regarding the 2024 Public Works Capital Project first quarter. Really good news report. Questions for Mr. Morgan? Councillor Ottens.
Thank you, Mayor. That first line's my favorite. It says all projects are moving forward and are in or under budget. That's like the best line in this whole agenda. Do you know when the arena paving, parking lot paving is going to happen? And I know we talked at one time about perhaps changing, like painting the lines on to do them the opposite way to make traffic flows be less dangerous. Is there any thoughts to that?
Through you, Mayor Davison, I have, the parking lot has already been fully surveyed. We're coming up with a stormwater design, because the stormwater can't all go to the back corner and go to the storm ponds, because that's all kind of capacity has been taken up by the industrial park. So we do have to bring some out to the county road. So it's all been surveyed. We have our electrical contractor here who does all our work, is going to do basically do our street light layout for us. And the plan is, we've been meeting out there, is kind of line the street lights to take away that straight shot for traffic calming. And I am going to try and pave as much as I can of that parking lot right around the back. So, and also when I bring it back to council, there's also going to be some little bit of changes in the front entrance, because we have had some vehicular incidents with those pillars. So there's going to be a whole package here when I get it all put together. Burnside's going to do a kind of like a site plan, and I'll bring it back to council for options, but it'll be done this summer. I have to have it done before the hockey and that starts. So we're rushing. They're working on it right now fast, so I can bring it back to council for some direction. So yeah, it's going to be full stormwater, full lighting, new asphalt.
I think the other question was, are we changing the orientation of how it's parking?
Yeah. Sorry, through you, Mayor, yes, we are. I've asked them to do on the site plan, doing an orientation of what would work best for all the parking to maximize it and maybe change it. So we did talk about that, sorry, I didn't answer that part of the question. Yeah, that is being looked at.
Thank you. Other questions? And then, Mr. Morgan, in the last year, when we had a little surplus of some of our roads, we actually added a road to be paved. Do you have any suggestions this year? We have a big surplus. You have any suggestions that would help us move forward for the next number of years?
Team Mayor Davison, we can't, there might be one concession that the culverts were placed in a few years ago. I can't remember which concession that was, but I can bring that also back to council. The reason we were able to kind of do the extra paving last year, because it was in town, and the replacements were fairly easy, curbs and that. It's tough to do rural road paving because we haven't been out there to replace those culverts yet, kind of in prepping for the next year, and definitely don't want to pave a road that has poor culverts. So, and I like to leave the culverts for a year. I know session 12, we're going to have to do a few, but it's nice to leave them for a year and let them settle. So I can look into that other block if you wish, and bring that back for approval.
Is there, I think I was alluding more to, is there anything else that, can we do engineering, pre-advance more engineering for, so we are ready for not just next year, but maybe the following year, instead of 2025, would we do engineering this year for 2025? Can we do engineering 2024 for also 2026? Which would also be very helpful to, I think it would be helpful for you and your team.
Team Mayor Davison, part of it being cheap, we don't hire engineers anymore to do our road paving projects. We do that internally. So as part of our bridge project, we have to make sure our bridge project aligns with our road paving, and that's how Side Road 15 got held up. We are doing pre-engineering and tendering for our bridges right now, so we can keep the bridges ahead of our paving program. Like, we got some up here to do on the 12th line still. So we're keeping ahead of the bridges, but as far as pre-engineering for roads, that's all internal. So we can do that ourselves and prep. The only thing is, you don't want to really cut the roads too early, because then you're going back and paving them stuff. But yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's fine. I was just looking to see if there's anything that you could use some of that funding, that $1 million plus, that would support the community for the next 3 years in our budgeting.
To you, Mayor Davison, I think that the Director of Finance had mentioned if we needed any budget changes in our 3-year budget, we had to have it in by the end of August, I think it was. So there's a few things that I'm going to probably bring back to council in the 3-year budget, bridges included, that might see some changes, and that would probably be a good time to adjust those. And I think leading us into the next 3 years. So that first-year budget, which council does, and then we do the 3, this will give me an opportunity to set council up for the next 3 years for discussion, and we can definitely discuss that, because I think the prices are going to stay favorable for us.
Good. Thank you. Other questions? I'll call the question. All in favor, receiving it? Thank you. Moving on to item number 10. Moved by Councillor Reid, seconded by Councillor Martin, that bylaws number 2024-020, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2024-020, 2010-080, being a zoning bylaw for the Township of Mapleton, and 2024-021, being a bylaw to regulate fences in the Township of Mapleton, and to repeal bylaw 2005-004, be hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 30th day of April, 2024. Questions on either of these two bylaws? Call the question. All in favor? It's carried. We have no correspondence for council's directions, a number of pieces of correspondence for council's information. Any comments on any of those 7 items? Any comments on any of those 7 items? I don't see any. Okay, we'll move on to number 13. Any notices of motion? There's no notice of provision. And item number 15, other business. Anybody have other business to bring up? There is one item of other business that I want to bring up. For council and for the community, this is the last meeting that Mr. John Morrison will be here at council. John, you've been the finance director since I've been mayor, and last 5 years, you've done a fantastic job of directing this council and giving us information and directing the community to the financial stability that we currently enjoy. And I really appreciate the work you put into helping us get to that point. I know council is very appreciative of where we're at. The community is appreciative of where we're at financially. And we just want to commend you, John, for the work you've done here. And we look forward to having collaboration with you in the future. But as you make your way to Gananoque next week, we do say thank you and enjoy your future closer to your grandchildren as you move that way. Thank you, John.
Thank you, and I appreciate the comments. Thank you, guys.
Anybody else in council have anything to add for other business? Councilor Martin?
I guess I'll just piggyback on your comments to the Director of Finance. In my time on council, we've had a few different folks in that particular office, and I've really enjoyed your time here with us. The experience that you brought from not just the municipal sector, but the private sector is something that I think the public sector sorely misses. And I love your approach to and caution at times, and you got to have the money to pay for it. And bringing that angle of things is, the second sober thought on council at times running ahead with great ideas, and then, you got to find somewhere to fund it. And you did it with class and patience a lot of times, let's be honest, when you're standing up front there and we're, asking questions and you're clearly annoyed and, just trying to get through it. And so I've really appreciated the stability and the presence that you brought through the finance department, and wish you and your family all the best out east.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed my time here at Mapleton for the last 6 years. It's been a very fun experience to wake up in the morning, come in here, and deal with all the issues that we've been dealing with. I find the councillors in this term and the last were very progressive in their outlook. I've seen councils where that sometimes is lacking, but here it was really good to work with, and I kind of going to miss it, but I do need to move a little closer to Ottawa. So I appreciate all the confidence that you've given me in the last few years.
Thank you, John. Our loss is Gananoque's, they've won. They will appreciate you just like we have. If there's nothing else further for other business, move on for the closed session then. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Reid, that Township of Mapleton Council move into a closed session to consider the following subject matter: review and adoption of the closed